Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the CCW Podcast. I am your host, Kaiser, and I am joined here today by another guest, another member of the CCW crew, Nicole. Nicole, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. Everybody here loves Nicole. She's great. She's awesome. What exactly is your title? I don't even know. You do a lot of things, but what is it exactly that's your title? Like, what do you do exactly?
Well, thank you for greeting me. It's a pleasure to be here. This is my first podcast, so I'm super excited. I am actually the crime prevention coordinator here.
That's what it is.
But I only work the North County. So we have two coordinators here for this organization, and I work only North, which is about Midwest District and North, which is following up into county line. So anything within that large range is what I would usually cover as far as handling the crime prevention meetings, crime watch meetings, and youth crime watch as far as our Miami-Dade Public School District as well.
Well, if you're in the North District, then there's a decent chance that you've either spoken to or know Nicole. So she's here now, and we're here to talk about not necessarily a new topic for us. It's something that we have kind of hinted to before. We are going into it's hurricane season, obviously.
Right.
In Florida, it starts in about mid-June and doesn't really end till about early November, give
Correct.
or take. So this podcast is going to be roughly about that, right? It's going to be about storms and how to properly prepare yourself and things like that. But I want to start by asking you, which storm or which hurricane really that we've had here in Florida has impacted you the most, right? Because we've had some pretty bad ones over the past couple decades. Not so much these previous years. We haven't had
Right.
a bad one since Irma.
Right.
But which storm would you say like really impacted you the most?
I would definitely probably say, even though I was fairly young, most likely Katrina.
For most people, it is.
Yeah, most likely Katrina. But even for that, at least for me, in my end, it was more or less like just going weeks without power or water or anything like that. I was living in an apartment at the time, so it took us a very long time to kind of get that handled. So it's like being a kid with no power, no water.
Sucks.
Yeah, it just
It's the worst.
it wasn't like that fun. No TV for like weeks at a time. I was like, yeah this is not for me.
Yeah, I feel that. No, for me it sucks because my birthday lands literally like in the middle of hurricanes. When hurricane season is kind of at like its peak, which is like August, September time. That's really when it gets bad. So I've always as a kid, I've almost always had like some sort of hurricane around that time, which sucks.
I can imagine.
I remember having this is a long time ago. I remember one of my birthday wishes. I think it was before Katrina too. One of my birthday wishes being, I hope the hurricane doesn't take out the power. Katrina came, wiped out everything. I was like, bruh, this sucks. But it is what it is. We can't control that. So,
exactly.
But to continue, this podcast is gonna be relatively fast or quick. We are by no means experts on this subject. It's more so kind of just getting information out for everybody to be aware of. We will have more detailed content coming out over the next coming weeks. We just recently had a blog post come out. Check that out on the website. It will be linked below. But we want to kind of make this podcast to have people to kind of get the conversation going for people, so they can have at least kind of groundwork for what they should be doing in these kind of situations, because these storms are very dangerous, right?
Correct. It can get very bad. And I always tell my crime watchers when we're having meetings and we do hurricane preparedness safety, it's about the preparation part more than anything else. As long as you feel prepared, you won't feel too threatened, because at least you know you did what you could. Right? Because there's things that's definitely external factors that are out of our control, but you did what you could to prepare over the few weeks and not waiting until the last minute to do these things. Yeah. So we definitely wanted to make sure that not only did we provide the resources, but just a few friendly reminders of things that you should be collecting over the next few weeks, because again, our hurricane season is very lengthy here. So we wanted to make sure, as far as our preparedness, you always have your cases of water, for example. You're always going to need water. If I am a true fan of like keeping at least 3 cases of water in my house, and once I use one, I just go back and I replace it. I try my best not to run out or just stick to one case, because you never know what can happen. And one thing that usually happens when we're in the midst of a storm and everyone's preparing at the same time, the grocery stores run out of things, and it becomes ridiculous to find things. So when you're thinking about preparation, non-perishables. So away from your water, you have your dried fruit, you have your canned foods. You make sure that your gas tanks are filled, because if you decide early in the game that you probably need to evacuate because you're in a flood zone, you don't want to wait to the last minute, because our last storm, when everyone decided to leave South Florida, the gas stations were running out of gas because everyone was doing things at the last minute. And we even seen last year with the pandemic, people are running out of toilet paper.
It seems so silly, but it's true.
Yeah.
People panic buy all the time. Panic buying is a really big problem that we have here in a lot of places, really. In the States specifically, though, it gets really, really bad, and a lot of that stuff is exaggerated. It's really, you never really need to buy that many things.
Right.
You kind of just need for your immediate family, and even then, you're only buying for. At most, I mean, at least for me, the longest I've ever gone without power is probably like a week. Mm-hmm. For some people, it's been like 2 weeks. But you don't need to hoard things. You're not preparing for the apocalypse. It's a storm.
Right.
A lot of people forget that. But
right.
Be mindful about when you go out to buy and how much you're buying, and don't be stingy. I mean, like or no, well, yeah, don't be stingy. Like don't buy like 10 things of toilet paper if you got a 3-person household.
Right.
Why do you need that?
Right. And again, it's just remembering that you can do these things ahead of time, right?
Yeah.
Toilet paper does not expire by any means.
It's
something, right. So if you decide that throughout the course of your grocery shopping, you pick up an extra pack, whatever you have collected, okay, that's a great habit definitely to have, but also making sure you have your flashlights, you have batteries. I know this is a little old school, but I have a lot of candles and like those old school lanterns, just in case, because if the power is out, my batteries fail, well, I still need light, so I definitely keep the candles. Trying to make sure that you guys keep an emergency bag in case you need to evacuate, and then making sure that you place all your important documents, birth certificates, social security, whatever important things that you may have, in a waterproof bag or a Ziploc bag, just to kind of keep those things together, because those things are very hard to replace, and no one likes waiting in the DMV or any other line to replace that stuff, right?
And it's pretty common for that to happen to people.
Right. So and so I always just tell people, have an emergency bag, especially if you have kids. Pack an emergency bag for the kids, because you need to make sure you have additional baby supplies, diapers, pet supplies as well, because your pets need food and things in those upcoming weeks, and everyone also stocks up on those things, because that stuff barely expires, and it doesn't expire quickly, so that's also considered a part of your non-perishables. I know that it's very expensive for some people to get hurricane impact windows put in their home, but I'm a big fan of putting some money aside to invest in shutters. Shutters do work.
They do, definitely.
Don't get shamed about the shutters.
Sometimes better than windows, really, because if windows don't protect from debris. So there are people that have hurricane impact windows and shutters. They do both.
Right.
There are people that have the ones that you can install that you can like roll. It's like a mechanism that you just roll.
Yep.
And they kind of open and close.
Yep.
And then they have my family. They have like the old school ones that you have to go up and mount. Personally, I'll never forget, after Irma, I had my hurricane shutters up for a year and a half afterwards. We were
that neighbor.
We were that, we were those neighbors. We had that. So my room was in darkness for like a whole year. So because we just didn't feel like taking them down. We were just that. Those things are heavy. They're time consuming to put up, but they do work. They're big. They're made from steel.
Right.
Nothing was getting through that. And the crazy thing is that it's good that we have them, because at least at my mom's house, we have a lot of trees and stuff like that. A lot of debris. Like the backyard is literally like a jungle. And then my neighbor's house is too. So outside of my personal window on the left side of the house was straight trees. Okay. So during the storm, one of those trees fell. If we didn't have the shutters up, it would have went straight through my window.
Right.
So that stuff, it works. It's cheaper. It's a pain to put up, but it works. So I highly recommend looking into it, seeing what options are available to you, because obviously everybody, different incomes, different situations, wherever you live. Looking into your apartments, it's really big. It's a really big thing nowadays, and kind of a little off topic, but obviously with the tragedy that happened with Surfside, make sure you talk to your landlords. if you live in an apartment, if you live in a condo, something
or
like
property
that,
management.
property management, whoever, you need to talk to those people to make sure everything is up to code, because you do not want these situations to catch you off guard. Your safety is priority, right?
Right. And then last but not least, as you were talking about debris, I remembered just making sure if you do live in an apartment, make sure you're clearing off your balconies. Please don't leave like your generators on your balconies either. Yeah. I know that's a very common thing. So clear off the balconies, clear off your front porches, because you don't want when those winds come through and they're picking up, all your stuff is flying around everywhere. So try to keep those areas free from additional things. And then, of course, like you said, like just the debris. Yeah, so even after the storm, you want to make sure like when things are calmed down and they say like everything's in the clear, like you pick some of that stuff up, because you never know when it comes to these storms. Sometimes tropical storms and other things start to follow on. So just be patient and try to keep your areas as safe as possible. And like I said, don't leave those generators on your balconies or close to any opening of your home or inside your home or anything like that. But we see that stuff.
Yeah, it happens a lot. Well, when we are referring to not keeping, obviously you want to keep your generator indoors when you're not using it, so it's safe. But we're mostly referring to keeping it on. Don't turn it on during a storm, and don't turn it on indoors, and don't turn it on near a doorway or a window or something like that. That those gases get into your house. They are gas powered, so be mindful of that. A lot of people make that mistake. But which is a good segue. Let's start to talk about let's get into what to do during the storm, right?
Right.
The precautions to take, like what we need to do and what we need to be aware of while it's happening, right?
Okay, so two things. So we look at what to do during the storm, and we look at what we should know. So number one, when we think about like what we should know, if you haven't received the Hurricane Prepared book, there is a book that is emailed to everyone throughout the county that says, "Are you ready?" And we send it out. Well, the county sends it out every hurricane season, usually prior to the month of July. Everyone should already have it, and it will give you not just a lot of these tips that we're giving you today, but it will give you the additional sources such as miamidade.gov/emergency, or you can even call 311, because what they'll do is give you everything from the safety tips, the evacuation centers. So usually when those evacuation centers open, they will post it on the website, and then it will even tell you if those evacuation centers are pet friendly. Please remember, those evacuation centers, you need to make sure you have a bin prepared with your own materials, like your pillows and your sheets and your personal whatever personal items you may need to continue on, because they'll give you, I believe, like a mattress or something to sleep on,
some sort of space.
Like a space, but they won't probably have every exact thing that you need at that time. So again, that goes back to the preparation of your bags and just having something set to the side in case you do make the decision to evacuate.
Yeah, it's a good idea to have an emergency bin, a bin that you keep maybe in a closet or something like that, that has extra pillows, extra blankets, extra toiletries, things like that you can kind of just pull out and go when you need it. And that stuff is those are non-perishables, as we mentioned earlier.
Right.
That stuff doesn't go bad, so you can just leave it there forever and not think about it until you need it.
Right. So. And then even if you're evacuating, make sure you swap contact information with like a neighbor or someone to kind of keep check or watch over your property. So swap that contact information, because I know me personally, I have like the cameras and things like that. But sometimes if something's happening on top of my home, because with the last major storm that we had that I said that we were personally affected by, our avocado tree fell specifically in the back, but it landed on the roof. Oof. So our back then got completely flooded, and anyone who lived right in front of us probably would not have been able to see that the back of our roof was completely damaged. Yeah. So, of course, this is going to be something that you think of after the storm has happened, but making sure that you guys take pictures of your property, because you can submit that to your insurance, and you want to make sure that things like your roof, you don't want all your things and your belongings being soaked throughout the course of the storm season, right? So making sure you're taking pictures of those things as well.
Yeah, it's just being mindful, being aware of these things that are happening. You want to taking the proper precautions and thinking ahead, right? So and with thinking ahead, like and it's not even just like what's happening during the storm, but like when you want to mixing my words here. Tracking the storm can be just as important, right? understanding where and when the storm is going to hit you, when it's happening, what to expect. Because it's you want to, because some people do have the option to leave. Not everybody can take that option, but if you can take it. But you want to know which days the storm is actually going to be in play, because sometimes these storms can last a full day, 2 days, depending on how slow it's moving. You never really know. So you want to be aware of those things, like Nicole mentioned before. You want to keep track of those resources, and you want to be informed on all these things while it's happening or before.
Right, and they have a storm tracker app through the WSVN local news channel, so you can actually track that storm and just have it on hand. Everyone keeps their phones on them at all time now. So if it's something that you're actually monitoring away from the actual weather channel, the weather channel has an app. And then the local channel news will also have a storm tracker app where you can kind of track a lot of that stuff as well.
Yes.
But going into, again, during the storm, so something I always advise people not to do, please do not go outside because it's not raining at the time. I don't know what attracts people to going outside during the midst of a storm, or a lot of people also have a tendency of, peeping through the windows just to kind of monitor what's going on with the storm. And it's close the shutters. There's nothing going on right now that you need to risk yourself of being electrocuted or something crazy because you keep peeping through the window.
There's no need to see it. What do you want to see? Water hitting trees and winds blowing? There's really nothing exciting going on outside.
Right, because the reality of it is you should try your best to stay away from those areas or rooms that have too many windows. That's one. Two, you want to make sure that you're not going outside and stepping into flood water, because if there is a power line that's down, you're
done for.
Yeah, you're gonna put yourself in harm's way. And sometimes there's a lot of debris and other things that's in that water that you can't see.
We live in Florida. Snakes, gators, fish, all those things. I've seen a gator floating around in sewage water before.
Right.
That it's crazy, but we live in Florida. That happens. So you do not want to be in that. You don't want to be that guy. Florida man gets eaten by a storm gator. Come on, bro. That sucks.
Right. So, don't walk through those flood waters. Don't drive through those flood waters. Unless you're a first responder, there is no reason for you to be disobeying curfews. And of course, if you feel like the storm is over, there is nothing wrong with checking with your local authorities to make sure that the roads are even clear or open to the public. And then again, you can always call 311 to double check to make sure if the roads are clear or what the specific curfew times are. You can call 3054 police, the non-emergency number, to ensure that you know exactly what those curfew times are. And you can check your local police department's websites and the county websites to check current curfew times that may be going on at the moment of the storm.
Yeah, definitely. It's just keeping up to date and being aware of these things as they are happening. So yeah, I don't know what else to
but no, it's fine. So something that I had learned recently, funny enough, I think Will actually taught me this. I was taught that you should not shower or bathe during a storm. Yeah. And I was kind of confused, and I was like, what? I'm like, I take 5 showers a day. Come to find out, lightning can travel through that plumbing. So you want to avoid showering or bathing in the midst of a storm. And sometimes it's very common for, even though that there's no rain, you still hear thunder. There's still lightning carrying on. Yeah. So even though your bathroom is usually a closed-in area and it's very safe, because if there is a bathroom window, it's very small compared to the other larger windows in your home. Yeah. So it's a safe place, but you want to avoid kind of being in the water and taking a bubble bath at that time.
Electricity travels pretty far as where it actually hits from. So you want it. It'll take a really long time to dissipate. I don't know the exact science behind it, but I can tell you that it can travel pretty far.
Right.
So just try to be safe. And speaking of the bathroom, actually, it's actually very common. One of the things that we advise is whenever things get really, really bad, and let's say, for example, a window breaks, or things are starting to flood, or whatever it is, and the winds are picking up and things are getting too hectic to a point where you can't be in a certain area in the house, you want to move to somewhere, a bathroom, a closet, somewhere, or a central place that has no windows, no doors, that you can easily have like stay in to be safe, right?
Right.
You do not want to be near windows. We can't stress this enough. You do not want to be near windows. You do not want to be near doors. Any of that during these kind of storms, because they can break. They can let in things. They can let in debris, water.
Right.
You don't want to be around that.
And that's another reason why I feel like it's very important for people to make sure that their electronics are like usually plugged out and things like that. Because once you have those electronics unplugged, God forbid that your roof caves in and your home starts to flood. You don't want to be in a situation where you're afraid to walk through to try to get out to safety, and you can't because you're afraid of being electrocuted.
Yeah. Or just unplug them, period, because the stuff is expensive, right? if lightning strikes and your power just like your power's gone,
right?
Your electronics are done. Granted, most modern computers have their own kind of like power bank surge protectors to prevent that. But if the shock is big enough, it'll just fry whatever's connected to the walls. So unplug everything, turn it off. Don't leave it on.
Don't leave your generators on.
You're gonna be mad if you come and then like your freaking your MacBook is fried because you left it charging during a storm.
Right.
What? Like that would absolutely suck.
Right.
So just be mindful of those things. And it's a lot of, we're repeating a lot of the same things, but it's a lot of basic stuff that you kind of need to understand, because it's just that important. It is just that important because it can happen to anyone. Exactly.
And the thing is, storms doesn't just affect people in South Florida, right? Storms affect everyone from Texas all the way out east. And they also, this is the first time that I've recognized that, how far up, actually, no, it was about 2 years ago, I think, I noticed that storms have started traveling like north into like the Georgia area. And I was like, I didn't even know like the storms usually pick up and last so long, because I thought by the time they hit about the Jacksonville area, they would like disperse. And I was like, okay, eventually that's not the situation anymore.
Yeah, no, the weather's changing in many ways that we can't really understand. And I can't explain it, but honestly, like, and this is for anybody who's listening to this anywhere in the country, you just got to be prepared. Florida, we kind of have I guess you can consider it a luxury. We have a lot of the proper equipment, a lot of the proper procedures put in place in our not just like as community, but like in legislation for these situations.
Right.
Our houses
disaster
are built
preparedness.
Our houses are built certain ways. Our companies are set up in certain ways. FPL, they have certain procedures for when there's a storm, all those kind of things. These other states, not so much. Like Texas, New Orleans, Louisiana, New Orleans.
Well, Louisiana have had to start. I think now we're hitting a phase where everyone has started taking precautionary steps because of so many things that's been happening. Remember, Louisiana has been dealing with storms for over the past 10 years now. Yeah. So now they have...
It's a relatively new thing for Louisiana.
Right. I feel like now, luckily, in 2021... everyone's kind of getting on board with the if-then or what-if situations. So
rather than trying to deal with it as it's happening.
Right. And I think the best thing about that is when we continue to remind people of a lot of the basic things that may be happening, it's an assistance to those who are just moving to these areas that come from other countries that move to Florida or buy property in Florida, that needs to make sure that even when they have pools, they know how to properly secure their pools during the storms and things of that nature. And I learned this from our administrative secretary, Kathy, taught me about the penny or the quarter trick, where you freeze a cup of water and you put the quarter or the penny on top, and depending if it has sunken down, then you know that your freezer may have been off at some point due to an outage, and you would kind of be able to even detect if your food is still good or if it's gone bad or something towards that nature.
There's a decent chance that any food that was in that freezer has probably gone bad if
the power has went out. But you can usually navigate that through that penny or that quarter that's sitting on that cup of water, which I thought was a fantastic trick. And Kathy taught me that one. Right. I was like, seriously?
I've never heard of that. That's new to me.
Right. And last but not least, during that storm, if something has happened to your recycling bins, they've been damaged, they've gone missing, they flew all the way down to the corner, don't be afraid again to call 311, because they will also yeah, and they'll replace it. So just advise them and tell them that. And let's not forget, if you're a crime watcher with a crime watch sign, don't be afraid to call our office at 305-470-1670, because if your sign has gone missing or been damaged through the storm, we will definitely come through and make sure to replace that for them.
That's right. Shout out to our crime watchers. But yeah, no, we've covered a lot of things today, and it's just things that general tips to remember, and kind of just get, like we said, we're just kind of setting the groundwork. We are by no means experts, but we've lived in Florida. I've lived here my entire life.
Yeah.
You've lived here most of your life.
Yep.
You know, it's a thing that we have to deal with, and informing people is super important. So again, we will be over the next few weeks, we will be releasing more information, more content kind of related to storms, so that people are informed. Follow us on social media at CCW Miami-Dade for more updates on everything that we're posting. Go back and read our latest blog post. It talks a little bit about storm preparedness, and it speaks on, or I think it talked a little bit about Elsa, not too much. Elsa wasn't a crazy storm. It kind of just barely missed us, luckily. But you know how to prepare for those things, and how to take those proper procedures. So and let us know in the comments below, what tips to what things that you do to prepare for a storm.
Exactly.
What is your storm safety checklist? Let us know. Tag us on social media, hashtag CCW Podcast, and we will look for those responses. And let's have that conversation.
Right. And tell us what your tricks are. You know, what are your at-home remedies for when you're in the midst of the storm? Because there may be some tricks that could save or assist some other people when they're in the midst of a storm.
Definitely.
So tell us what you do on the regular to kind of protect your home, and we will gladly like, comment, respond to you in that comment section below.
Yep. And with that, this has been the CCW Podcast. Nicole, thank you again for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Everybody. And the rest, everybody have a good day.